Now come to our panel discussion. So we will invite Nick and Ken join back. We will also have a Nuno, Director Security Engineering from Royal Bank of Canada to join from user side. Let's do a quick self-introduction before we start our panel discussion.
Nuno Afonso, I'm the Director of Security Endpoint Engineering at RBC. I've been there for roughly 5 years now, and we work on very large, complex solutions to essentially remediate security threats and try and be proactive to try and keep up with a lot of the threats that are happening in the industry. My background, spent many years at BlackBerry before that, working on internet peering, as well as a lot of risk analysis and corporate security as well. And that was very interesting, as we had a lot of really interesting connections to like the Department of Defense in the US and many other government assets, and working very closely with other Canadian and Five Eyes governments. So thanks for the invite, Bryan. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Great to have you join the panel. And all right, Kent, I introduced you, but what's your story?
No worries. So yeah, so a little bit about myself. Basically been with Trend for about 4 years now. Before I came to Trend Micro, I was actually a partner client and reseller. So my organization actually partnered with Trend. I met them about 7 years ago when I formed that partnership from another security vendor. So I've been around the security game for almost 10 years now. I started out as a network consultant and then moved into a security role in an organization of about 8,000 users. So been there, sat in the analyst chair before, tried to work on strategy, saw the SIEM evolution happen, started to see the EDR evolution, and then I moved over to a vendor. So I've been here for about 4 years now. And my focus is 100% on XDR in my daily job.
Very cool. Thank you very much. Nick?
Hey everyone, Nick Selvaggio. So I'm relatively new at Microsoft. Prior to joining Microsoft, I worked as a security consultant. I did a lot of work in operational technology, so industrial control systems and IoT, which is a very interesting area to work in because people think that information security is mainly about data loss. But in those environments, there's also an aspect of human and life safety that needs to be taken into consideration. And part of that, I have a large background of experience in infrastructure and networking.
Cool. So we have an architect, we have XDR expert, we have a director from user side. So let's do this great panel on the XDR. I already saw some questions that people submit. We will come back to you very soon, Simon. So great questions. We'll come to you. All right, so let's start our panel discussion. In both of your presentation, you talk about what is XDR. Right? So I'd like to ask from your point of view, or you already touched on some lot of concepts. What does XDR mean to you? Right. So when you first kind of hear this term, what do you think about this technology? Or another way to look at that, so you can also answer from different angle is what is not XDR? What are some common misconceptions about XDR? Right, so, let's start with Nuno first.
Go ahead, Nuno.
Sure, yeah. Well, Kent and Nick did such a great job describing what XDR is. Maybe it's best that I'll just tell you what my experience, what I don't see XDR fulfilling. For me, like I consider XDR to be like rapid detection activities and remediation, right, for single instances. I think Kent's example was really good about showing the other mailboxes that have that phishing attack that haven't been opened, and you can remediate them rapidly. I think that was excellent. Some of the things that I've looked at, and I would have to say that XDR is not. Like XDR is not log management. It doesn't do data retention to the depth of a data lake or a SIM, and as well as compliance capabilities. So if you are working in a heavily regulated industry such as financial, then you really still have to ensure that you rely on SIM as well as XDR, and XDR will be a massive component that will be providing that data into the SIM. The other thing as well, which I'll really just touch upon briefly, and maybe the other two gentlemen can go into it a little bit more. XDR does have automation, but from my experience, I'm seeing that XDR does not provide that all-encompassing playbook orchestration that a lot of people are looking for, and that's what you get more so with SOAR. And I think it was Nick that said that in the future you will see more of a collision between XDR and SOAR as they're all, and even SIM, as they're all trying to compete. But I think if you're looking for orchestration, you still have to look at a SOAR right now. And if you are looking for compliance and data retention, SIM is still your choice. But as time progresses, I'm sure that there will be a race to see who does that the best and who does that the fastest. And I'm really curious to see what the two other panelists have to say about orchestration and compliance.
Perfect. Anyone can add on to that?
Nick, you want to go first?
Sure. So XDR to me, really takes all the existing platforms that we use and stitch them together. So the goal when I talk to customers about XDR is to get intelligence faster and being able to use it. And it really depends on the size of an organization that's using it as well. So extremely large organizations may want all of the raw data so that they can use Jupyter Notebooks or something else to analyze that. Some smaller ones may not have that skill set or the time, right? So the fact that a lot of that investigation can be automated and linked to incidents, and hopefully being a bit more proactive, like instead of allowing the user to click on the link, block it right from the start, or being able to build out that chain of investigation to determine what was impacted. When it comes to automation, though, I mean, I think that really depends on the XDR platform and what you're trying to integrate it with. Some are very good if you're using a certain ecosystem of products, but ultimately I think there's always going to be use cases that need to extend out of that. So the question is, will you be able to build that into an XDR platform, or is a dedicated automation platform more appropriate to that? Or maybe it's taking the events from XDR and automating as much as possible there, and then putting them into a similar SOAR tool to execute other playbooks. So there's a lot of flexibility and customizability that I see, and organizations can use that to their advantage based on their skill sets and requirements.
That's good, man. That's great. That's great. The way that I look at XDR is about visibility, gaining that extra level of visibility, right? Removing those silos, because when I was in that SIEM world, you still have those silos. But what it's going to allow organizations to do is make more intelligent decisions. They have big data at their fingertips. They know who's been affected, who's been impacted. They're going to be able to use the vendors, analytics and AI and machine learning capabilities to prioritize, right? A lot of teams spend a lot of time chasing rabbits down rabbit holes. XDR is going to allow them to focus more on the events that they need to focus on. So it's going to allow them to prioritize those alerts so they can focus their time on more better, obviously high value detections and not just the weeds and the noise. So XDR to me is about visibility and visibility across multiple layers. So the whole story of EDR is the endpoint. XDR is about bringing another layer into that story, whether it's email, whether it's network, whether it's cloud. They're all going to tell that story, and organizations are slowly going to have to start their shift to bringing in that XDR model depending upon where they need visibility.
Perfect. All right, so those are the unique angle and also their experience with XDR, not just all the fancy things, but also the limitation, the relationship with other solutions, and how do we better use those technologies all together. Okay, so this is really just a quick concept, set up the stage. Now we look at XDR, because when we introduce any technologies, doesn't matter, it's SIEM, XDR, so all the terminologies you can think about, eventually we need to solve our business problem or security problem or the issues, right? So the direct usage for the XDR is for our security operations. So from your angle, what are some common challenges for today's security operations? Yeah, so anyone can start.
Nuno, you got the experience. That's
yeah. Okay.
Great.
Yeah, you do. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll give a technical, real brief technical one, and then I can kind of give more of a holistic view. So I think you know, what we're seeing more and more within the security engineering and IR aspect is just the growth of the advanced attacks, right? And the risk vectors are growing. Like we saw, the end of last year with Sunburst. Now we can't even trust some of our partners and vendors, right? It's becoming so complicated that it's difficult to keep up and to get ahead of these adversaries. So, it definitely requires more partnerships, more training, more attention and monitoring, and definitely you can see how the growth of XDR can tie everything in together, because related to this is, we mentioned already several times, we have so many tools at our hands, but that context switching, something can easily be missed. The efficacy could be different from one tool to another, and being able to tie everything in together, one pane of glass, is a huge advantage. From just I would say, as a leader within the industry, again, like talent and team skill set is a big challenge right now in terms of retention. As ties into the advanced attacks that we're seeing every day now. Talent is really becoming a huge shortage in the industry. Recently, looking to hire more and more people, and it's definitely becoming very difficult to find individuals that can come in and help right away. Some of the things that we look for, especially around the EDR space, as my understanding, experience with XDR very limited, but that 80 to 90% of that information is coming from EDR. So really understanding the endpoint space, the desktop, so we find like system admins can really fit in well, because they have the real depth and understanding of operating systems and the mechanics, and some of the vulnerabilities that you see, especially some of the advanced things like living off the land. So those are the two things I see is very much around the advanced attacks and just the talent skill set.
Right. So one is the APT, advanced attack, or we can also mention the visibility, right? So
Yeah.
the visible to that. And Nuno, you also touch on the talent development, which we have another question dedicated for that one. So we will expand that one a little bit more. And all right. So Ken, Nick, anything from your end you see the challenges?
Go ahead, Nick.
Okay, I'll go next. So some challenges I see. I mean, if we take a short step in time, and not too long ago, that when I actually look at the timelines of security innovation, I realize how much we've done in the past 10 years. It's actually quite amazing, the events that we've been able to make. But if we go back to, let's say, 2010, when traditional antivirus and very early SIMs were popular, and we look at the capabilities they had, which were very minimal, right? We could do basic detections. Then we move a bit further and we have more SIM platforms that are starting to introduce AI and machine learning algorithms and EDR. And then the challenge with EDR that I both personally experienced and heard from customers was, how do we deal with the massive amounts of data that are collected? Like, should we be doing something with it? Should we just rely on the EDR platform to correlate that and tell us when there's a problem? Is there any way we can, cross-correlate that with our email data or something like that, right? And now with XDR, a lot of that can be automated and everything can be stitched together. There still is some questions, though, of, there is a lot of raw data, and there are organizations that want to build a data lake or some sort of like ML pipeline to analyze data further, especially when it comes into use cases about UABA. So XDR is very much more on static detections, but user behavior analytics is still kind of a separate category. So I'd be interested in seeing if the organization or the industry moves more into that as well. Because the amount of data that you're collecting, you'll be able to profile user activity relatively well.
Right. Yeah. Ken?
So I'm going to touch on just two topics here. One is tools for all, right? With XDR, organizations will have access to tools in a very confined, consolidated manner. We see organizations buying forensics tools and SOAR tools, right? Even they have a SIEM in their current practice today. We're going to see a lot of those use cases be consolidated as you move forward, allowing you to collect files in the environment or sandboxing in the environment. So solving those tools where maybe they don't have budget to buy all these individual tools, XDR is going to solve some of those problems as we go forward. And just on Nuno's point, people. This all comes back to that thing. We understand by all the market analysis, we need people in cybersecurity, but we also, within the cybersecurity realm, we have a gap when it comes to our SOC 1 analysts to our SOC 3 analysts, right? Those people don't exist. And XDR is going to really fill that gap and really correlate and do that entry level, get those, needles in the haystack more visible, right? And allow those SOC 3s to take that investigation to the next level, leveraging their skills. So it's going to help in that skill shortage and resource shortage we have today. So it's going to address those challenges.
All right, cool. So those are the common challenges we are facing. And so now we come to XDR. So let's say an organization is considering or implementing XDR. What kind of like key considerations, including how to evaluate the XDR solution? So what kind of key considerations when an organization wants to implement XDR? For this one, maybe Kent, you first.
I can fill that in. So essentially, they need to figure out their approach first, right? What approach they're going to go with when it comes to XDR. They need to look at their product sets that they have today, realize, is it going to be a hybrid approach? Can my vendor do a native approach? That really is going to start the conversation, right? And as they mature their organization and start to leverage a framework, they can really see where they can gain some key visibility within the environment. So, I mean, essentially understanding where you are today and where you want to get to. And with XDR, it's not an all-in-one, like they say, you can move all there, but strategize yourself as you mature your organization, gain the visibility you need today, right? Either it's on the endpoint or in the email channel, but then mature it as you go forward, adopting more and more technologies that bolt into your XDR solution.
Wonderful. So you need to understand what do you have, where are you going first, right?
Exactly.
So before you adopt that one. Nuno, so your team is doing a lot of evaluation for all kind of technologies. So what do you see on key considerations?
Yeah, well, really interesting because I think what Kent and Nick are representing, I don't want to speak for them, but more of a native XDR. And, someone such as myself and my team, we have various other tools and all, try and really find the tool that fits our business need. And something like an open XDR, for example, may be something that is better suited for us so that we don't have to rip and replace certain technologies. So these are things that we'd have to look at. So we'd have to, make sure that we have not only looking at the best of breed of an entire ecosystem with a native XDR, but we would also look at what can we enable with interoperability without limiting our visibility and the alliance of the multiple vendors with an open XDR. And that's what I'm interested in seeing, how that is going to mature, to see if vendors will play nicely with each other and allow for that open ecosystem, which will benefit all customers, right? And just last thing I would say is, it's something that would be really interesting is cloud-based versus on-prem. Again, it goes back to regulatory reads of the industry that you're in. Cloud-based, of course, gives you more flexibility and agility, but there may be times where, maybe you need to have certain constraints due to regulatory needs where it has to be on-prem. So those are the two that I would think of.
Excellent. And Nick, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I actually want to relate to Nuno's comments. So, the Microsoft solution is a little bit different in that it's natively tied into all the other products. But I really think organizations need to look at what they have deployed right now, and does the XDR platform support that? Because one of the keys to XDR about why you can build that unified story is that all of the data has to be normalized inside a certain format, which is a chronic challenge with SIMs. You're ingesting data from everywhere, some is in syslog, Ceph, you get some from JSON by API. You have to make sure that they all follow a standardized taxonomy for the data format. And if you don't do that, you're going to miss significant detections. So, out of all of the actual protection tools, will the XDR integrate with that? Or does the XDR provide EDR? In that case, make sure your email platform is supported. I would say that is very, very important to look at. And also taking into account what are the risks and gaps, like why do you want to get this platform? It should be objectified in a way that you have documented risks that would be solved by XDR or some sort of operational efficiency goals.
Excellent. I do see Nuno kind of doing this while you respond
No.
to Nick's
Yeah, well, I
comments.
think
So, yeah,
even
want to
Simon's
talk
question
about
on the panel there, where he says partnerships seem critical to XDR success, and I think that's exactly what Nick is alluding to there. Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, so I have a general feeling about we talk about all kind of technologies, right? So I have my own development background, so I tend to look at things from underlying part. So it doesn't matter it's a SIEM, XDR, UEBA, or SOAR. At the end of the day, to me, it's like a kind of a big data, right? So you get data from everywhere as possible. So then you do the deep analysis. So with that consideration, I do see there's a question actually from Simon and Evans about data sharing among different technologies. So can you kind of share your insights about how do we better use the data, like in XDR solution or in any other related solutions?
So I'll grab that one. Essentially, well, when we talk about XDR, what's really going to come alongside that is also this new reinvent of zero trust and how we're going to attack that. Because with having XDR, we have a massive data lake full of information that we can leverage to make intelligent decisions when it comes to zero trust. And we're going to see models that are going to actually flow in and out from XDR, and you're going to see zero trust and XDR work together as they go forward, which is a good use of that data. And by bolting on simple solutions like into our stack at Trend Micro, such as Azure AD logs, right, allowing those corporations to bring those user activities into the data lake can really help, right, amplify the amount of or enrich the data we have inside our data lake. And so going back on that other question, it's not just going to be XDR and leveraging that data. There's going to be those sources coming in from third party, which is going to allow us to tell a better story, which is going to make attackers more visual in their environment. So we're going to see those activities. So as they try to move, we can see everything. And at the end of the day, XDR and zero trust are going to be one with the other as we move forward. That data is going to serve other technologies besides detection and response as we go forward.
That's a great angle to look at that, and especially tie with a modern security model like zero trust, which industry right now really most of company advocate this one, and some company like live by zero trust, right? So all those things are related to that. All right. So anyone else want to share your insights?
Yeah, I can go. So, XDR really is a big data platform. I mean, it stores a lot of raw telemetry from the different source systems. Endpoints specifically generate quite a lot because you'll have every process execution and so on and so forth. So a lot of activity that happens in the background is being logged. And then the question is, what do you do with that data? So some organizations don't really do anything with it. They just let the XDR platform operate on a day-to-day basis. They're happy with the outcome. But there also is a lot of powerful things you can do with that data. You can usually query it. So you can save hunting queries and you can build them. And, we also have an open source community where people can contribute their own queries and use ones from the open source community. But ideally, you build those, run them on a regular basis, and even integrate something like Jupyter Notebooks to be able to kind of democratize that to everybody. So you could run small algorithms inside your Jupyter Notebooks to do further data analysis on the data. But it really is big data. Like, to give you an idea, we collect almost 3 trillion threat intelligence signals per day. And then we have to decipher that and, normalize them and everything. But it's a lot of data. I've seen organizations collect upwards of 1 terabyte of data per day from their XDR platforms.
Lots of data.
Wow.
Any comment on that one?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar how it works under the hood in terms of correlating all this data, but I know we have data everywhere, and that's where I see, from my experience, the beauty of XDR, right? So contextualizing and building, merging all of the data from, especially things like identity and access management, and going into one of the questions about industry trends, right? Like for us, it's cloud, right? So we have all this cloud trail and log analytics from Azure. We have all this information, and being able to tie that all into XDR. It's just fantastic because then you can use that data, as you said, it's a large amount of data. But if I can see that maybe this threat originated from a Fargate container that was, built and torn down exactly at this time in this account and this VPC, all in one pane of glass is amazing. Now I'm not the expert in XDR. These two guys are, but I don't know how you guys do all that, how you merge all that data together and like under the hood. But really just the more data we have, the more power we have, and we should be able to evolve and use that data to try and protect our environments.
Excellent. And of course, speaking of data, since we collect so much data, so logically there's a couple of comment or questions from audience. We need to pay attention to the quality of data, the privacy side, and also all kind of all those data security, protection, privacy general rules need to apply to the data, because sounds like we collect everything, right? So in the meantime, we need to pay attention to what we collect. All right. Coming to Ken mentioned the zero trust, right? So at the end of the day, we need to look at where the industry is going. So security, we all agree, security industry changed a lot, especially after pandemic, like during COVID-19. There's so many things changed, like work from home, dynamic workforce, and the identity part also become very hot, zero trust. So really to address the current challenge and concerns. So with that said, from your point of view, what are some current industry trends about the modern SOC or security operations center? So where the industry is going from you? Anyone can jump in.
I can just start with this one. I've kind of already dipped my toe into it with my last answer, but we're starting to see more and more utilization of public cloud, Azure, AWS, GCP, and starting to see that many of the analysts and IR members need to familiarize themselves with how cloud works and how it operates, and being able to take that data from CloudTrail, GuardDuty, Log Analytics, and put that into SOC and have it all contextualized. Just I think makes that easier for a lot of the investigators, and really just provides a nice threat scope of what you're trying to investigate, rather than having to try and piece it all together, or maybe call someone from the cloud operations team to investigate on their behalf. Or so I think with cloud coming on in such a large manner and becoming more and more complex and more advanced, not only will the SOC have to integrate that, but if it can be done with XDR in a meaningful way, I think that's a huge advantage.
Cloud definitely is a game changer, and it's challenging a lot of our classic security model and tools. All right, so two other gentlemen, anything you want to add?
Nick, you want to go first?
Yeah,
sure, I'll go first. So I do a lot of work in Azure for Azure security, and one of the main things is we have to change people's viewpoint on managing traditional on-prem infrastructure versus cloud. For example, if you have a serverless app that has automatic scaling, 1 hour when you're in peak usage of your web app, you could have 10 nodes. An hour later, you could have 2. So how do you deal with those temporary nodes in terms of logging and evidence collection, right? And another thing, kind of not so much related to cloud, but I have seen a lot of organizations that are hiring actual data scientists to work in their SOC now. to help them with exploring through the data to see if they can build, statistical algorithms to improve the detection capabilities, or links between data that maybe a threat hunter or a SOC analyst didn't see. And those data scientists, didn't primarily have a security background, but data is data, and ultimately I found they've been able to quickly pick it up.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And like the trends we're really seeing is, organizations are starting to like really readjust their lens when it comes to like the trend like zero trust as it gets reinvented again, because as if people didn't know, it was coined in the 90s, right? Forrester really brought it back to attention in 2009. And now as we have better, technologies at our fingertips with more data, that trend is going to explode, and it's going to be a hot topic as we go forward, because the castle and moat approach doesn't work anymore. Not everyone's on the network. Our teams went home during the pandemic, right? We need to take these large data lakes and leverage that data to make more intelligent decisions when employees are accessing resources. And right, as we move forward with these XDR platforms, you're going to see zero trust being embedded in them, right? So that, if a user is introducing risk or a device is introducing risk, you can cut that access off, and it's not a static connection once you identify. This will be a continuous assessment based on the data you're continuously ingesting into the data lake. So this trend is just going to explode as we go forward. And us and Microsoft are in good standing because we're native, right? We understand the data. We don't have to parse it and normalize it. We're a little bit ahead of the game. And from this data, people can make intelligent decisions when it comes to access. So we're going to see access control actually get more secure as we move forward.
All right, so those are some important industry trends you from your angle can look at that. And I do see a couple of questions, actually quite many questions on the chat. One thing related to XDR is, I think Simon asked this question is, how XDR and email work together? Because zero trust coming, but people are still using email as their primary business tools, right? So which is actually the challenge for zero trust. So how email and XDR will kind of evolve? What's your point of view? This is actually the.
So I'll grab this.
Can you-
So
you can comment.
essentially, Microsoft has been very nice and has things like the Graph API and the Exchange Web Services API. So this data is going to be easy to get out of those environments and have that important data. And things like account compromise are going to play into this, right? Somebody's being phished in the email channel, and we know that's a phishing URL. That's going to allow zero trust systems to actually have risk scores that are going to have amplification based on that detection. And so email is going to play into the risk score for users as these systems develop out. So it is very important to see what's happening. Is this person being targeted? Is there been a malicious URL found in email, right? Is there a phishing attack? Is this gone to multiple recipients? These are all going to play into it. And yes, zero trust and the email channel is going to be difficult, but gaining visibility into that channel is going to be the first step as we go forward. And then using the data we acquire from that channel is going to help us amplify our zero trust strategy as we go forward. So very important when it actually comes into the scoring aspect of zero trust, the email component, right? And having the ability to respond in that channel, such as quarantine or delete, are going to become very, very important as we go forward.
Visibility and give the correct proper score. Right? So that's actually
correct.
All right, Nick, anything to add to that, or?
I'm not sure zero trust is a big challenge with email right now. I mean, there are ways, and it really depends on how we're talking about zero trust as well, because zero trust is a term that's used in a lot of ambiguity. Some people might be saying zero trust, they're talking about micro-segmenting their data center versus the more industry-accepted approach, which is to, assume breach, validate every transaction and things like that. But I mean, there are ways to secure email, and mobile phones, for example, there's technology that allows you just to secure the data in the mobile app. So like Outlook, for an example, right? So you don't have to secure the entire device. And if the device risk exceeds a certain threshold, it can automatically delete or prevent access to that data. And then when it comes to how email and XDR will evolve, I mean, there already are capabilities where, let's say there was some drive-by campaign where 100 users got phished overnight. We already have the capability of going in and removing those mailboxes from the user's inbox, right? And determining if they even read it or clicked on it. So I'm not sure how much more further that will evolve, but it will be interesting to see.
All right. Okay. All right, so let's move to actually the last but not least, a very important question. And Nuno actually touched on that already, talent development. Kent also mentioned when we implement XDR or any other modern security technologies, talent also very important. Really is, doesn't matter how powerful the tool is, you still need to rely on people to use it. So as a general question, to build a successful security operations team, what are some like skills and capabilities we are looking for? Nuno, you go first.
Sure, yeah. Well, in relation to, I can talk about SOC, but also, you know, my team, you know, we do all the security engineering, so the solutioning and proof of concept and evaluation of tools for the SOC. So, you know, what we try and look for is really, I would say the most important thing is problem solvers, creative individuals. You know, we work in a very challenging and complex business environment where we have, you know, very difficult business problems every day that are related to security, right? So not only do you have to protect the bank, but you also have to ensure that the bank can still function and still perform. And that's where we really need to have individuals that have a diversity of skills and they can think outside the box and adapt quickly. So that's one of the things I would say is very creative individuals and good problem solvers. And from a skill set, again, I think Nick touched about it. I know, like, you know, there are data scientists that we're looking for as well, like to do threat hunting and data analytics. And I said it before, like system admins are very good in terms of understanding the operating system landscape, and they have a good understanding of the attack surface and vulnerabilities.
All right, very cool. RBC, of course, hire a lot of security professionals. So go if you're interested in connecting with Nuno.
Thanks.
I just do a little bit of promotion here.
Okay.
Anyone else want to comment on?
I mean, I'll grab it. Essentially, we're seeing a whole new line of roles in the SOC today. Like you said, you're looking at data scientists. We're looking at coders. I actually had a SOC I talked to that had a social media expert who their job was to threat hunt on social media, making sure that there's nothing in that realm. So we're going to see these new roles, and like critical thinkers are a big part of this, right? Security does not have to be their role. They need to think outside the box. Right, we need some new thought processes coming into these SOCs. So we are seeing new titles come in, right? And critical thinking, and you know, those skills shortages are there, and XDR is going to help with some of that skills shortage. But at the same time, we're seeing the teams go wider with all these different roles depending upon what they're looking for in the SOC today. But yeah, like Nuno said, data scientists are front and center in a lot of these organizations, right? Building those rule sets, understanding the data that's there.
Excellent. And so threat hunting also very important, as Kent mentioned. In fact, the first time I met Kent is through the Trend Micro threat hunting exercise, so the lab exercise. So really, so people comment on the, I think they submit a question online to say, okay, how can we get the experience, or how can we get a practical experience, all those things. Really is you need to make your hands dirty, really do something there. And Nick, anything you want to add on the talent part?
Yeah, so from a talent perspective, and I see there's a comment related to certifications and experience as well. So I would really emphasize, you know, there's some soft skills and then some more hard technical skills that I would look for. So in terms of soft skills, I would want somebody that really has a, you know, always wanting to learn mindset. I think that people that don't want to do that or kind of stay stagnant in our industry, considering it changes so often. Another thing would be probably a high performance mindset. I hate seeing SOC analysts or engineers that are in level 1, level 2 for a very long time. You know, having that ambition to grow and to do other things and maybe move outside of the domain or into something completely different. In terms of technical skills, I would really recommend that everybody be very comfortable with one programming language. Preferably Python, but just because it's used everywhere for data analytics. But Node.js, anything that would be a modern language would be great, because a lot of these security solutions are really platforms now, and they provide a very robust set of APIs. So you can do a lot with that. You can collect logs from them that you may not have been able to do before. Data transformation, a lot of that requires people to stitch that data together. And relate to certifications and experience, I personally think it needs to be a balance of both, right? There's people I met that have a lot of experience that don't have any certifications, but I would, trust them to do an investigation on whatever platform anytime. There's other people that have 10 certifications, but I can tell they're not really good at all of them. So, I think it's very, I'm not a recruiter, but I do think it's very hard for recruiters to do that initial assessment, right? I think it's turning more back to, having a meeting to discuss for half an hour and see if you'd be a good fit.
Excellent. So you also mentioned the soft skill side, and also the balance between certification and hands-on practical experience, and the programming language. Because at the end of the day, industry is moving toward everything is software, everything is code, right? So even cloud is an infrastructure as a code, and DevOps, DevSecOps. So you see a lot of usage. So you need to at least as a next-gen cyber talent, you need to at least have some programming skills to make you successful. All right, so that's pretty much coming to our the end of our panel discussion. And thank you very much for 3 of our panel speakers: Nuno from RBC, Nick from Microsoft, Ken from Trend Micro. I would kudos everyone online today. You actually demonstrate your continuous learning skills. Right? So it's an evening, you see after work, after school, all those things, you join, right? So rather than watch Netflix or YouTube, you come to learn. So that's really demonstrate that. And also thank you very much for 3 of our industry experts using their precious time come to share their insights. So I'd like to ask everyone, give them a virtual applause or pat. Thank you very much.